In some ways, the second day of Diddy's criminal trial was more awkward than the first. Cassie's chance to testify 8 months pregnant and wearing a long brown dress, she entered without making eye contact with Diddy, grinning or nodding. Simply went straight to the stage as if she had spent years getting ready for this moment. Perhaps she had. Her tone was steady but gentle. She didn't tremble or cry. She just shared her terrifying story.
A whole night to process the disturbing details of these freak-offs that were laid out yesterday through the eyes of Cassie Ventura. The graphic details, the alleged abuse, the drug abuse. Today they didn't have to use their imagination though. It got real in that courtroom today when the jurors, not the public, not the press, when the jurors saw still screenshots from these freak-offs. There was something so uncomfortable about the moment. Watching the jurors see something so raw and so personal in a courtroom full of eyes and full of opinions. Cassie was the most emotional we've seen her. At times even reflecting when she heard the words come out of her mouth, saying things like, "I can't believe I dealt with that." And you gotta understand, these aren't gigantic courtrooms. Cassie and Diddy are not at opposite ends of a football field. They are feet from one another. And the only thing between them really are their lawyers. And even though all eyes were on each of them, I don't think they ever looked directly at each other. Not when she walked by him, not when she was testifying, not when at times she broke down sobbing, remembering how she loved him and just wanted him to say sorry for the things that he had done. Now, when she talked about not wanting to live anymore, or her opioid addiction, or lying to her mother about the abuse or when it started or the extent of it, the audience was shifting uncomfortably. And sometimes
that she had to hide beneath a toilet to avoid Diddy. She also disclosed that he had thrown it into a bed frame, cutting her eyebrow. She stated that throughout their time together, she felt completely helpless to decide whether to flee after being kicked in the face on the floor of Diddy's Escalade during a journey home. Let's get to her point now. After a party in Los Angeles, Cassie talked about heading to a hotel where Diddy had beaten her. She claimed she felt unable to leave even if she didn't want to stay. She stated in her testimony, "It wasn't safe because I didn't have..."
About having to hide under a toilet to get away from Diddy. She revealed getting a gash by her eyebrow after he threw it into a bed frame in front of her friends. She said she got stomped in the face on the floor of Diddy's Escalade for the duration of a ride home. And she claimed throughout their time together that she felt, well, powerless to make the choice to escape. Now, to make her point, Cassie talked about going to a hotel when Diddy beat her after a party in Los Angeles. She said she didn't want to stay, but felt she couldn't leave. She testified, quote, "It was not safe. I didn't have the resources I needed to get out and move, to get out and not have anybody stop me." You know, Cassie went on to say, I understood Sean's capabilities, his access to guns, and the threats that he made prior to that. Cassie clarified her testimony from yesterday as well, saying that there were times that she did try to fight back or even initiated violence. She testified she did so earlier on in their relationship, but she quickly found out it could backfire, telling the prosecutors, quote, that it could escalate the fight more and make it worse for myself. When the prosecutor asked what she meant by that, Cassie said, quote, "Just make him more violent, make him stronger."
Throughout the most of her testimony, Diddy remained still, arms crossed, and periodically scribbled something in his notepad, but he never once averted his gaze. When she stepped down, the room fell silent. There was only the sound of heels on the floor and a door closing behind her. No clapping or whispering. Diddy first exposed Cassie to what he dubbed freak-offs when she was just 22 years old. It didn't take long for it to become a regular part of her life, even though at first it sounded like some sort of twisted fantasy. One of the things she said made her feel useless and
Cassie also described the leverage, that's the word she used, leverage Diddy had over her. She said that leverage came in the form of blackmail, those videos specifically of the freak-offs. She testified that Diddy threatened to release them when he got angry. Cassie said, quote, "One time I dated someone else and that it was And that is what it was all about. I'm going to put out 2 embarrassing videos of you. He just wanted to hurt me. Now, Cassie's direct testimony is actually now over. The defense, though, they're going to get their chance to cross-examine her and go into the details again tomorrow morning. I want to begin with CNN entertainment correspondent Elizabeth Wagmeister, who you and I have been bosom buddies in this court. We've been sitting next to each other watching it all go down, and you have a unique perspective on all this and the coverage you've been doing. Talk to me, though, about the scope and of the violence and the intimidation that she laid out in court today.
Yeah, Laura, so as you said, her first day of testimony yesterday really focused on these freak-offs. Today focused on the physical abuse, the domestic violence. This was the first time that the jury saw photographic evidence of the injuries. You mentioned this gash on her eyebrow. We saw bruises all over her body, a black eye, a fat lip. I want to walk you through just some of the instances that Cassie brought up when she testified today. One time she said that she and her girlfriends, they went to Prince's party. Yes, the musician Prince. Diddy was there. He didn't know she was going to be there. He got angry and she said, quote, "He f***ed me up." She said that after they broke up in 2018, that he raped her in her living room at.
Prior to these incidents, Diddy had a list. Her body needed to be perfectly tanned and waxed, and her nails were to be done in a specific style, either white or French tips, alone. He would comment on her shape, breast implants, and even her gait and speech. She wasn't merely showing up. She was getting ready for a performance. She didn't know the other man, only that he was paid to be there, and the first time it happened was in his bedroom at his house in Los Angeles. She had taken X'd and had a drink before it began to attempt to calm her down. Diddy oversaw everything, including the lighting, clothing, and baby oil. He even made her wear wigs and masks, which made everything seem eerie and clandestine. Legal. Professional.
They're showing an incident from Toronto. She said she put her hair over her eye to hide a bruise, and then they went to the Hamptons. She said that Sean Combs wanted to then have a freak off in the Hamptons, so they got a hotel and an escort. She said that the escort was named Dave. She took the drug GHB and she went into a G-hole, which sounds like some type of blackout. She woke up and she was naked in the shower, and Dave and Sean were freaking out. "I bugged out. It wasn't pretty," is what she said in the testimony. She said, "Then what?" Ventura responded, "I spoke to a friend of Sean's and then we had a freak off." And then they showed another photograph, and it shows her eyebrow that had healed up a little bit a week later, and she has a permanent scar on her eyebrow, she said, from this. And she is shown another photo from the Cannes Film Festival. She said Sean accused her of taking drugs from his boat and threw her off of the boat, but her passport was still on the boat. She was on the red carpet for some type of event that night, and she said she attended the movie. They then went to New York. There was a commercial flight that they took. She traded her seat to get away, but he traded to get next to her. What did he show you? Freak off videos. So we've heard about this, him showing videos and then using that as kind of blackmail material, if you will. She said that he played the freak off videos for me on one of his laptops. He said he would release them. So that's some pretty...
Freak off may have 3 or 4 sessions, she explained. Diddy decided when they began and finished, and sometimes they went on all night. They eventually became weekly. She didn't say no because she didn't want to, but rather because she didn't want to annoy him. She took drugs such as Molly, cocaine, and X to get through them. She said that when he became upset, his eyes would become dark, which alarmed her.
We can talk about and identify the sex workers that may have been involved, identify the locations, because again, in order for this to be a federal case, you've got to cross state lines. So if you have to establish that these activities happened in New York, happened in Miami, happened in California, that you were forcibly transferred or had to travel to each of these different locations. So the videos are going to be important from that perspective. But again, I don't think everybody's going to sit there and, watch, sex tape after sex tape after sex tape and watch Cassie be, basically and brutalized 10 different ways from sunrise. I don't see that happening. but I do see some snippets coming in. But I do got to say one more thing, because my inner prosecutor wants to go after what Brad said.
Yeah, I had a feeling Melba was going to have something to say about what Bradford was saying. So go on, Melba.
Yeah. But most importantly,
I think that Melba's bringing the velvet hammer to you,
Mel,
Bradford. Not a velvet
great.
glove, a velvet hammer.
Melba's fantastic.
So go on,
She's
Melba.
always been fantastic. I welcome it.
Well, one thing I will say, first of all, is that sadly, I think all of us know people who have stayed in abusive relationships for a lifetime. And we know people that have died as a result of domestic.
She only mentioned that she enjoyed her one-on-one time with Diddy during the freakoffs, but even then, she felt as though she was merely there to play a part. She once made an effort to tell him how it made her feel. He dismissed her, saying she was predictable. Diddy even posed the question, "Who are you going to want to call someone?" in an email. He thought she would like to invite others. Cassie, however, only desired to be with him. Fearing that someone may recognize them, they wore masks, wigs, and stripper heels as disguises. It took place in hotel rooms all around the nation, including in Turks and Caicos, Miami, and Vegas. Employees brought in candles and baby oil, among other items.
That she and her girlfriends, they went to Prince's party. Yes, the musician Prince. Diddy was there. He didn't know she was going to be there. He got angry and she said, quote, "He beat me up." She said that after they broke up in 2018, that he raped her in her living room at her home. She also said that it wasn't just her, that one time he held one of her friends over the balcony on the 17th floor of her apartment in Los Angeles and hit another one of her friends with a wooden hanger.
And she lost that friendship. That was a best friend of 17 years she described, and then they don't communicate any longer. I'm curious to see how the prosecution might develop those connections a little bit more fulsomely.
I saw him drag an assistant out of bed. I saw him punch Eli in his head. One time in Turks and Caicos, he dragged a person. I believe we had a freak off in Turks and Caicos. What floor did you live on at Comstock? The 17th floor. Did a friend stay with you? Yes. Sean came and held her and threw her on the patio furniture out over the balcony. I saw Sean bring her back in from over the balcony, and then he threw her on the patio furniture. And Carrie Morgan, I saw Sean hit her in the head. Did you get substances on your own? Occasionally opiates. Sean would put pills in a vitamin C bottle on the sink in the New York apartment. He'd say, "You can take them." He had doctors who would write the scripts in his name of his assistant or in my name. Your brother's birthday party in Connecticut of 2013. What happened? My mother told me someone was taking pictures of me and I went and punched her in the head. You testified that your relationship with Sean ended in 2018. How was your health? I was sleepwalking. I had PTSD. Defense rules objection. What is this? A photo of my front door in 2018. Publish it to the jury. Why is there a knife there? Sean was coming around a lot, so I had it. August of 2018, what happened? We have a closure conversation at a restaurant in Malibu. He was trying to convince me to go to Burning Man. Were you seeing anyone? My now husband, Alex Fine. What happened next? Sean came to my house and AR'd me on the living room floor. His eyes were black. It was like taking something from you. You cried? What did Sean do? He continued and finished inside of me and then got